What's up, everyone? You know what time it is. Time for that NGNWR action. Coming at you live here. It's fine October night. Got a very awesome show planned for you. Got a very special guest, which I'll get to. And going to talk about a lot of things, you know. Very special episode. We're going to talk about Roddy Piper. We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw with my special guest. And, I'm also going to go off subject a little bit. So, the brand's going to rant a little bit. You're listening to No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio, NGNWR. Here we go. Oh, yeah, there'll be a third one. Anyway, hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Talk to my wife there about a little private matter. Anyway, we are ready and rolling to go here on the show. Big episode number 4 of NGNWR, and pretty excited about it. I got a very special guest that's going to talk with me later, going to talk about Monday Night Raw with me. And not going to reveal who it is yet. It's too big of a guest to even put into words, to even give away. It's going to be a huge surprise. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Of course, I want to cover first and foremost, just out of all given due respect, of course, biggest story this week. That's usually how we start the show, is talk about whatever the biggest story is. And unfortunately, it's a sad story. Rowdy Roddy Piper passed away this last week. It was Friday night. I was actually on my way to the Crystal Ballroom with my wife to go see Floater live in concert. It was actually my 20th Floater concert. But anyway, besides that, just in the sweltering heat, driving up in a car with no air conditioning, we're on our way up to the show. Of course, I got, road board, for a second, and, you check your phone because I'm in the passenger seat there. And, of course, my news feed is just completely filled up. All the friends that I have that are wrestling fans and so forth. And, posting about, of course, Roddy Piper passing away. And I just, it took a lot to sink in. I definitely couldn't let it fully hit me in the moment right there. Of course, it wasn't probably the greatest time for me to read something like that. It definitely hit me pretty hard. Of course, in all due respect to Roddy, it's kind of strange too, on the way to in Portland, the home of Rowdy Roddy Piper, even, going to this concert. So just very, just very eerie to me. But definitely, couldn't really process what it meant to me at the moment. But of course, we've all, had a few days to gather our thoughts, and there's a lot of things that stick out in my mind about Piper. He's really one of the earliest things I remember about getting into wrestling. I'm 30 years old. I was born in 1985. good old year, 1985, let me tell you. And when I was about 4 or 5 years old, somewhere in there, you know, ever since I can remember, I've been watching wrestling. And it started with, you know, of course, seeing it on TV, you know, but back then, you know, didn't really, you know, of course, you didn't have, you know, access to programming as easily as we do nowadays. So, my biggest, you know, my biggest, you know, gateway into the world was written the videotapes at the movie store, you know, the VHSs, and so, you know, one of my favorites that I used to rent all the time was actually WrestleMania 5. It was probably my earliest Roddy Piper memory. One of the first times I actually saw him, you know, actually being him. It was funny. It's a segment that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot. It was him with this guy named Morton Downey Jr. Morton Downey was, you know, definitely should have researched this. He was famous, basically, from what I understand it, for just being like an obnoxious smoker. From what I understand, I think he was maybe like an actor or something like that. He was a talk show host. Here we go. Morton Downey Jr. He's very outspoken singer-songwriter, talk show host of the 80s. Okay, so he was like a precursor to Jerry Springer. That was it. You know, that's kind of what it looks like. So anyway, here we go. Yeah, it even mentions on his Wikipedia page something on WrestleMania 5 at Piper's Pit. How that's funny. Anywho, that's one of my earliest memories of Piper, is him spraying down old Morton Downey Jr. with the fire extinguisher. WrestleMania 5, that was one of the tapes that I rented a lot. There was another, I believe it was like a SummerSlam or something like that, where he actually came out and he was facing Bad News Brown. He was painted like half black, half white. That always kind of stuck out to me, and he was pretty inactive, you know, when I was younger, you know, in the early 90s. Of course, that was when he was like first started retiring like every other year and everything. But still did some great work. I remember the match with him and Brett at Wembley Stadium in WrestleMania 8. That sticks out in my mind. That awesome finish that they later did on the Brett match with Austin at Survivor Series 96. You know, Piper was definitely one of my favorites. Now, later on, I was able to actually, you know, because this is before the age of internet and, you know, WWE Network and being able to just watch clips. So things like this were very limited when you get to see things like this. I was fortunate enough to go down to the video store, and I rented a tape called Roddy Piper's Greatest Hits, and that's where I really got educated on Roddy Piper and what he was really about. It had all the best stuff from, you know, it was produced in the 80s, Coliseum home video. It had all the great stuff. Him busting the coconut over Frankie Williams' head, and that whole thing, and just great. You know, the Piper's Pit with him and Snuka, and all the greatest things from him from the 80s. I'd love to get my hands on it. You know, to actually like own a copy of that same tape that I own from the video store. at some point in time, of course you can look up the clips on YouTube. That's what's great about nowadays. WWE Network. You have access to all kinds of things going on. Excuse me, but back then, just wasn't quite the same thing. So I was very fortunate to be able to catch up on and really get to know Piper, and that's when I really, really became a fan of his. Even more. And his career speaks for itself. You know what I mean? He another big memory I have of him was, of course, a lot of people will say that they, may or may not have been a fan of this, but when he first came to WCW in '96 during that NWO angle, that was hot, and people don't really, remember it as such, but man, when he showed up at Halloween Havoc and the whole thing, I remember it being a pretty big deal, at least in the in the circles that that I ran with back in the day, which we won't even get into that, but it was pretty well done. I remember the promo was pretty good. It went so long that it actually went off the air. They showed the rest of it on Nitro the next night. And they had that match at Starrcade, which was supposed to be a title match, but apparently wasn't, because it just got, he ended up winning, but he didn't win the title. There's, of course, some politics that happened with that, apparently. It's one of the great mysteries of WCW booking. Just, pretend that it was never booked as a title match and just move on. Is apparently the plan as far as, as far as that goes. So, anyway, Roddy Piper, yeah, definitely much respect. Just very shocking. Another guy gone definitely way too soon. Seems like he was healthy. A guy that really transcended not just wrestling but entertainment in general, of course. Everyone knows, if you've watched any of the programming this week on WWE or anything especially, and, just if you know Roddy Piper in general, for a fact how he transcended the business and made his impact on movies and acting, even into current day, not just his work in the 80s, with like the Hell Comes to Frogtown and They Live and all that, Body Slam. I remember just recently seeing him on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which it was kind of, he was kind of put into that, typecast wrestler role. But he still, I thought, was pretty entertaining in his performance of it. And, I don't know, but it was kind of an odd performance, I would say, and I don't know. He wasn't portraying himself. He was portraying another character. It was funny. I wonder, that would have been a great question. I wonder if he ever answered that in an interview, exactly what his character in Always Sunny, if it was based off of, actually somebody other than himself, because it was very off the wall. I wonder if there was any kind of a backstory to that, or if they're just like, hey, you go on there and play a crazy wrestler guy, and it'll be funny. I'd like to think that there was some kind of a story behind it, but that'll be something to research for another time. Anyway, wanna go ahead and wrap this up here about Roddy Piper. Pay tribute. Just shared with you some of my greatest memories, most of them, anyway, in a quick form, and definitely say Roddy Piper, rest in peace, and God bless you, sir, for everything you've done as far as just entertaining all of us, and it's heavy on the heart. I send my condolences to his family, of course, which none of them are going to be listening to this, let's be honest, but you never know, kids. You never know, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, who's going to be listening out there. Listeners coming and going every single week. And we got some exciting things happening. We're going to go ahead and throw to a break here soon. When we come back, I'm going to rant about some other garbage for a while. And then after that, we're going to have our special guest up. So you're listening to NGNWR, No Gimmicks, Needed Wrestling Radio, with your host, The Brand. And we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show, NGNWR, No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio. I'm your host, The Brand. Forgot to introduce myself earlier. I feel like a total tool about that, but I'll go ahead and let that slide. And the bulk of the show, we usually talk wrestling stuff and all this junk about wrestling. And in the first episode, I delved a little bit into the music side of things. Of course, I play a lot of music on here, so that's a big part of the show already, but sometimes want to talk about some things related to it. Definitely playing in a band, my band, Stone Tyler, and just want to talk about music. I'm a big fan of music in general, all genres, a big one being the, of course, heavy metal, and all the subgenres of metal, just that general term, the heavy side of music. Of course, always been a fan of that. And, every now and then, I do want to talk about some things as far as that goes that really just get at me, just grate my skin, grind my gears, if you will. But anyway, I, one of the big things I've been seeing here on, these news sites and stuff, you look at like Blabbermouth and the PRP and whatnot, freaking Metal Injection, wherever you go. Been a consistent, trend of stories coming out as far as this year's Rockstar Mayhem Festival, which just to give you a little background for people that don't know, this is your big festival as far as metal goes in the United States. Okay, this is basically for lack of a better term, if you're familiar with the huge entity, a few years back that was Ozfest. This is pretty much like the present day, equivalent of that, or was, or at least trying to be, for a lot of years. Basically the tour that represented, the more extreme, hard rock, heavy metal side of things. You had the freaking Rockstar Mayhem Festival, which they have been very, very successful for years, pairing, pretty big, main stage, headlining bands, popular, heavy metal, hard rock bands out there, pairing them with, the more popular, subgenres. You make the big package tour with the festival where there's all these stages and somewhat and so forth. There's been some pretty great bills over the years. Just going through, almost anybody who's anybody, played that festival over the last, believes ran like the last 8 years or so. Could be wrong on that, but so yeah, this it's a big deal. It's a festival, so they run this year with they go ahead and they put Slayer, the band Slayer, in the headlining slot, along with King Diamond, which for those of you who don't know, King Diamond is pretty popular. It was in the band Merciful Fate back in the, I'm going to probably kick my own ass if I'm wrong about this, but, like late 70s, early 80s, Danish metal, right? If I know my stuff correctly. Anyway, and, a pretty big deal. But here's the thing, though. long story short, here's the conflict as far as this goes. Here's why I'm ranting about the freaking Rockstar Mayhem Festival in the first freaking place, okay? The whole deal with it is that you have the founder of the festival going on these sites, doing these interviews. It's being reported by these sites. He's saying things about metal fans and this and that. Not our metal bands scaring away girls because all the metal bands are like old and all this, and there's a lot of back and forth. And then you got Kerry King from Slayer out there, in mid tour he starts trashing the tour, just saying that basically, long story short, it didn't do well. Not a lot of tickets sold, and apparently it's the last Rockstar Mayhem Festival that there's going to be, because they tried to condense it, make it smaller, and have, lesser known bands, kind of, two stages. And here's the thing, you have Slayer headline the thing, which, if you're doing, these big festivals, which, they played the White River Amphitheater in Washington, which I've never been to one of these things, okay? I went to Ozfest back in the day. I never made it to a Rockstar Mayhem, so I can't say, what they're like in previous years, but I've heard that they're pretty good. But anyway, you have Slayer in the headlining slot, which, no disrespect to Slayer. Slayer is Slayer. Slayer is great for what they are, as much as I don't like to, there is some things there that I do enjoy to hear that I just think sound great. And but here's the thing, they're not a festival headlining band. They're a great co-headliner with another bigger band. The thing that the Rockstar Mayhem people didn't get, as far as I'm concerned, is, there has to be, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, there has to be that big attraction that's like that popular, like metal headlining band. You got to have somebody in there along the lines of Avenged Sevenfold or Five Finger Death Punch. That's pretty much the two bands that'll do it nowadays. Okay, you have very few, I'd say, top headlining metal bands, unfortunately, due to the decline and the music, industry side of things. That's just the way it is. Very few bands have risen to that level. And whether you like them or not, they're basically these few bands. They are Avenged, Five Finger. Another one is, of course, Slipknot. I would say that's probably the three right there that are the bands that could actually legitimately go out and sell out an arena by themselves, or be the headliner of the festival and be the main band that people want to see. There's some other bands that could also do it, but they're a lot more sporadic, and of course probably cost an even greater amount of money. System of a Down, I'm looking at you. Bands like Tool, I'm also looking at you. I think they, both of those bands could probably pull in quite a big draw as well. But of course they're not out there, on that tour, circuit. Haven't been, for a number of years, at least for the summer festival circuit. They feel kind of beyond that, or what have you. But anyway, just to kind of wrap this up, Kerry King's, talking crap about the tour, and it's just apparently spiraled out of control. It's unfortunate to see, because I never made it to one of the tours, and but then again, that's maybe saying something as well, because there was never really, there was maybe a couple years in there where I was like, yeah, I'd really like to see that, but Uh, none of the packages that they ever really put together particularly captivated me. And maybe this has been a long running thing. Maybe it's not just this year. That's not done such the best. Maybe they've been in trouble now for a few years running, I would imagine, and that's why the tour is finally closing because it's on its last legs. To me, there was always just such a weird mix of bands. It was always like you had like these really, you had like your Avenged Sevenfold or whatever, and then like a couple other like smaller bands that were like them. And then you had like all these like way like extreme metal bands like filling out the rest of the thing in the second stage. And then the rest of it was like all that like like all that screamo, wemo stuff that's going on now. Which screamo is one thing, but these bands that are just doing it over and over again. And I guess every generation has their different version of it. You know what I mean? But to me, it's like, I don't know. I guess there were bands even older than the bands that I like, so I shouldn't talk smack. But to me, it's like I sit there, and it's like some of these newer bands, I sit there and I listen to them, and I'm like, this is exactly what, Poison the Well was doing 10 years ago, basically. Or this is exactly what, freaking Cattle Decapitation's been doing since, however long they've been together. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like no one's actually doing anything really new. It's just kind of a new spin on it. That's one of my biggest problems with metal in general, is that there's all this like, you just have to be like the most like grrr thing out there. I think that's just a bunch of BS, That just shows just kind of like to me it's just like it's just a dumbnality of thing, if that's even a word, which it's not. A dumb abnormality of the whole thing. I can't even get into it. But on another subject, I'm also, while we're on the subject of music, there's somebody's reporting Spotify. Here we go. Back in April, apparently, Spotify revealed top 25 metal subgenres. Apparently, they compiled this from what streamed in their catalog or what searched for, or what have you. It's a very shocking list, actually. The first one is alternative metal, which is strange. I'm not sure what they consider the alternative metal. New metal is number 2, which I wonder if people were actually searching for the NU metal, or if that just means like they wanted to hear new metal, like NEW, like they just wanted to hear a new metal band. I don't know. And then what's confusing about the list, that you have these subgenres in there that aren't even necessarily metal subgenres. You have hard rock at number 3. You have stoner rock at 24. I guess those are the only 2 that just have rock in the title. But it's just ridiculous looking at this thing. Groove metal, number 4. Rap metal, number 5. Which I guess just actually goes to show you what I guess is just the most popular. You got funk metal at number 6. Metal at number 7. Metalcore at number 8. Speed metal at number 9. Melodic metalcore is number 10. So pretty interesting. Folk metal's at 25. You have something called Gothic Symphonic Metal at 23. just like, I don't know. I guess it just goes to show you what people are out there listening to. One of my favorites on this list here, neo-classical metal, comes in at number 18. I'm not sure exactly what that. Let's go ahead and let's search for that real quick. Neo-classical metal. Let's see what's consisted of there. Okay, so we're talking, heavy metal, classical, influenced by classical music. So, they're saying that Deep Purple pioneered that subgenre along with Yngwie Malmsteen. Apparently, wow, that's kind of interesting. Definitely don't want to delve too much into that. But anyway, there you go. That was the top 25 metal subgenres in NGNWR classic brand form. We're gonna go ahead and take another quick break, real quick. We're gonna throw to some music, and I'm gonna be joined by my very special guest. And we're going to break down Monday Night Raw for y'all. Stay tuned. It's NGNWR. We're on the air, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. NGNWR back live on the air for you. Going to be recapping Monday Night Raw and talking some other WWE stuff with our... Actually, we're going to be talking about the WWE Divas a little bit with our Diva expert, the one and only, Jaden. Jaden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
All right, how you doing today?
Great. Absolutely great.
That's good. I'm glad to have you here. You're getting to become a little, quite the little expert now on wrestling, just like myself. She, even at times when I struggle to watch stuff, she's always there to encourage me to watch it, especially SmackDown every week and Raw and everything. She's a big Divas fan. Who's your favorite Diva, Jaden?
Nikki Bella.
All right. Why do you like Nikki Bella?
Because she's actually a great champion. She wrestles very well.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome right there. I can't really say who my favorite Diva was. I think it was AJ before, but she retired. What did you think about AJ retiring?
I don't know, but I miss her pretty bad, I say, but AJ's great. She is a wrestler, and she used to be the Divas champion. She was a great Diva too, but as far as I'm saying, I like Nikki.
Yep. Yeah, I know you like Nikki. And the world knows you like Nikki now, so that's great, Jaden. You watched Raw. You probably watched a little bit more of Raw than I did. I was kind of in and out of it, but you stayed with it and pretty much watched the whole thing, so you can kind of help me fill in the blanks here from what I don't remember. We'll go over it real quick. They opened the show with the Roddy Piper tribute, of course. I did my own at the beginning of the show. Of course, where they all stand on the stage and do the tribute, the 10-bell salute. After that, of course, the show starts. Rollins comes out, cuts a promo, of course, bragging about how he broke John Cena's nose last week. What did you think about that?
Well, it was pretty bad. I mean, I feel bad for John Cena.
That looked pretty bad, huh?
Yeah, a lot of cracks in his nose, and I feel bad for him, but I'm glad that he's, around, and yeah.
He'll be okay, because he's John Cena, huh?
Yeah, the champ.
Yep. So, Rollins, I guess challenges him to a match at SummerSlam, title for title. So that should be interesting. Cena's going to accept. But, of course, he wasn't on Raw this week because he was rehabbing that injured nose. So, pretty good promo by Rollins. Great, of course, always good to kick it off with a nice, solid promo from your heel champion. And then he actually goes into saying since Cena's not there tonight, he's going to do his own open challenge for the WWE Championship, which I thought was quite shocking that he would do that. And it was kind of interesting because they were like, well, he can only be like under 6 foot and be under 200 pounds or something like that. And they didn't think anyone was going to come out. Thought it was going to be Hornswoggle, actually. But it ended up being the man that gravity forgot, Neville. Of course, and that's how we kicked off Raw, was Neville versus Seth Rollins. Jaden, what did you think about this match?
Well, it was a pretty good match. Seth Rollins or Neville versus Seth Rollins. It was a nice match. It's when they counted 1, 2, 3, and Rollins had his foot on the ring stuff, on his ring. And the ring. Yeah,
Rollins ended up coming out with the victory, and But it was still a great way to kick off Raw. After that, they go into 8-man tag team match. The Matadors and Lucha Dragons take on the New Day and the Ascension, which the New Day and the Ascension ended up winning that. I guess the Primetime Players apparently on commentary, or at least ringside. Were they on commentary? Do you remember?
Yes, they're just with the...
They were talking like during the match, right?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so they were, so they continued that whole thing, mixing it up with all the tag teams in that tag team division. It'll be interesting to see what kind of match the tag team division has at SummerSlam. If it's just going to be a straight tag team match, or if they're going to find a way to get all those teams involved. Here we come to probably the part that you're really focused on here, Jaden. The next match looks like it was the Bella Twins taking on Charlotte and Becky. And looks like they had quite the little match there. What do you remember of this match?
Well, Charlotte, she wrestles very well. She does the Black Widow or something, and well, at that match, it was actually a great match to me. It was perfect, and
But the Bellas didn't get the win though.
Yeah, but that's still okay because I like the Bellas, and sometimes they lose and sometimes they don't lose, and it's good for me that I can understand that.
Here's the thing, even if they end up losing, the important thing is that when the title's on the line, Nikki always ends up still the champion, huh?
Yeah, like when she foughted AJ, and when she just came out, she just wrestled her, and then when it gone by very quickly this often.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like after the match, Paige came in to celebrate with Charlotte and Becky. Alicia and Brie, come in to get Nikki out of there, and they go. They had Team Bad, of course, was watching backstage during the whole match, so yeah, they're getting still mixing it up with all of them, continuing. Be interesting to see what the Divas match ends up being at SummerSlam. SummerSlam's going to be awesome, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait until I see. It's like SummerSlam, and it's like I can see it, and it's like in 5 weeks.
It's not even in 5 weeks, I think. It's in like about 2 or 3 weeks now. We're coming up on it here pretty soon.
It goes pretty quick to me.
Yeah, it's almost the end of summer. You're going to have to go back to school. What do you think about that?
Well, I can't wait until I get in 3rd grade, and I'm happy about it, and I'm happy to meet my new teacher, and I love school absolutely.
All right, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Moving right along, Jaden, looks like we had Miz TV was the next thing to come on. He had Cesaro out there talking about Kevin Owens. They're building a thing between them, apparently, is what they're going with. And of course, Owens comes out and confronts him, and they have a pretty good back and forth. And of course, they don't end up actually fighting, because that's part of Owens' shtick. And then we go to the next match, which would be Rusev and Mark Henry. Of course, Rusev comes out with Summer Rae, as he's been accustomed to here. continuing that storyline. Of course, the Lana chants are pretty thick during this match. And pretty simple little match for Rusev to go over. Ends up getting the win on Mark Henry. What'd you think about this one?
I liked that match. It was a pretty good match, and Rusev making the moves and stuff, and Mark Henry doing a couple moves. Pretty good.
It was pretty quick and to the point. Rusev, of course, gets to get some nice heat back on himself because it seems like he's been taking some losses here recently. And then we have a Bray Wyatt promo. And, of course, he cuts a promo on Roman. And Harper, also talks a little bit about Dean Ambrose. And Sheamus also appears, tells Randy Orton, has some words for him. And so that's setting up a big another big six-man tag team match on this week. They had one a couple weeks ago. And apparently this one, is going to be the big main event. The Wyatts and Sheamus against Reigns and Ambrose and Orton. Next match is pretty interesting. King Barrett and Zack Ryder. Really interesting to see Zack Ryder. Don't get to see him much. But, of course, pretty much a job match to King Barrett. King Barrett runs through him pretty easily. King Barrett's one of your favorites, huh?
Yes, indeed. And also, he did the bullhammer on Zack Ryder, and it was pretty cool. It's, amazing.
Probably the most newsworthy thing that come from the show was the next part of the next segment, which was the Paul Heyman promo coming out with Brock Lesnar. And the big selling point for this, is he's going to, basically drop this big bombshell about The Undertaker and about how he begged for a rematch at WrestleMania 31, but Vince turned him down because he was afraid for Taker's safety. Classic promo from Heyman, of course, very well delivered. Definitely the highlight of the night. That's for sure. Always is when he picks up the mic, whether you like him or not. Always entertaining. Did a great job of continuing that story and building some good hype for SummerSlam without the two actually being in the same arena at the same time. It's amazing, being able to do that. Very challenging, but great when it all comes together. And the next segment was Paige versus Naomi, which is the other piece missing to what was going on earlier. Of course, Paige out there doing her thing, and then of course Naomi is part of Team Bad. What did you think of this match, Jaden?
A wonderful match. I liked a lot of that match. It was wonderful. I really liked.
Paige ended up winning, huh?
Yeah, I kind of liked Paige in that match, but my favorite is Nikki. But in that match, I really liked that, actually.
There you go. Paige ends up getting the win. After the match, Submission Sorority celebrates in the ring. That's an interesting name for their little group there, the Submission Sorority. I don't know if I like that. I think it's a little too complicated to say, but whatever. Rolling right along. They show some highlights. Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose actually had a pretty awesome promo, which was a throwback to Roddy Piper The whole chew bubble gum and kick ass thing, from the movie, quoting Piper. Pretty nice little promo. They go to commercial and of course come back for the big main event. Like I explained earlier, Orton, Reigns, and Ambrose take on Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Sheamus. This was actually, here's the thing about these main events here recently. They're so full of commercials from what I've noticed. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like they went to this match at about, I don't know, I'd say it was like there was still like 10 minutes left in the hour. And they went to break, I think twice during the course of that 10 minutes. So there was probably like about, 4 or 5 minutes of commercial time, probably about 4 or 5 minutes of actually action in the ring. And then, of course, there's the carryover, which I'm pretty sure just goes straight through. So I guess that's why they end up doing that. But the show didn't carry over too long. It was a nice little timed thing. And of course the faces go over, Roman and Randy Orton and Dean Ambrose. Pretty good match, huh? Wouldn't you say, Jaden?
Yeah, it was a great match, a lot, and I really liked it at that part.
Who's your favorite out of those three, do you think? Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, or Dean Ambrose?
Well, I'm going to say Randy Orton will be my best.
Randy Orton, huh? Why is that?
Because it's so cool when he does the RKO, and it's...
RKO out of nowhere?
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
Do you want an RKO right now?
No. No.
I'm just kidding. I never RKO yet. That's my wonderful daughter, ladies and gentlemen. Jaden, the brand's daughter, joining him. It's so awesome that you joined me here, Jaden. You did such a great job breaking down Monday Night Raw for me. We'll have to have you back on in the future. And maybe you could talk about some other stuff with us some other time. What would you think about that?
That would be great.
You're going to be a big star now, right? You're going to be you're on your way to internet stardom, being on NGNWR, No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio. What do you think about that?
I just think that it's great. It's great and perfect, and I just can't wait to be in the future again.
Do you think your dad's cool?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Documentation, ladies and gentlemen. In about, 7 or 8 years when she's a teenager, I can play this and I can say, hey, there was a point in time when you did think that old dad was pretty cool. So, anyway, I love you, honey. Thanks for joining me on the show. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Got some... had a great show today. Had a lot of fun with you. What do you want to say to the people?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this video.
Listening to this podcast?
Yes, podcast.
Can you say NGNWR?
NGNWR.
No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio.
No Gimmicks Needs Wrestling Radio.
No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio.
No Gimmicks Need Wrestling Radio.
Close enough. I love you, honey.
Love you too.
Thanks for being on the show. We're out. We'll see you next time. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.